All right, number 27 here. Lots and lots of stuff has happened since the last podcast. Lots of racing stuff that we will talk about, including the much underappreciated PanAm Championships that just took place in Utah. And lots of championships going on. The European Continental Championships and some of the local ones like the French Championships. The reason those are something I follow is because, let's be honest, most of the top riders, other than the few from the U.S., are, of course, going to probably participate in those races. So it's kind of like watching little mini World Cups. But lots of small little gear news that I think is quite interesting. And all kinds of good stuff, including a classic episode of Baywatch that I've been meaning to discuss. Long story on how I ended up watching Baywatch, but needless to say, it's something worth talking about. And what else? Nino's got some cool background with his father that we can talk about, and all kinds of stuff. So let's get going.
This is Short Travel Magazine.
Short Travel Magazine.
Changing gears. More new stuff we don't really need.
All right, lots of little gear news that I found interesting. First of all, cranks have been coming up in a lot of the forums and conversations I've been having, mainly because transmission from SRAM, of course, changes the chain line from the standard 52 millimeter, pushes it out another 3 millimeters, which then everybody wants to know about chain rings and offsets. So it just kind of came across. I got to thinking, you know what? It'd be cool to have one set of cranks that I wouldn't have to worry about. And the EEWings, of course, from Cane Creek, the titanium cranks, have always been something I've been fascinated with because back in my youth, 40-something years ago, BMX cranks were steel, hollow metal, like Redline flight cranks, and Bullseye made a similar crank. And of course, in the 90s, there were a few titanium versions of those. But really, the EEWings, at about a $1,000 for a pair of crank arms, it's just not something I have any intention of ever buying. Even if I could, I don't know that I would do so. But one of the big turnoffs for me was that they were, natural titanium. And I'm sure that's why many people like them. They got that cool metal finish, but they do now have black EEWings. Now, I don't know what type of wear problems you might have over time. I purposefully push my cleats on my SBD shoes and pedals away from the crank arms, just because I hate rubbing on the crank arms and wearing off the finish. That's just something I've always done. So I have no problem. I can't imagine they would ever really be that bad to where you'd be sorry for getting black. But the black ones do look really cool. So there's that. Now they've dabbled in a few other colors, but still, $1,000 for cranks. I would love to just have some for no other reason other than they're cool. But black is definitely something I would definitely go for. Now, chain guides. Let's talk chain guides. I don't know how many of you actually use chain guides. A lot of modern cross-country bikes and trail enduro bikes do, in fact, come with a chain guide of some kind. Canyon, for example, has their own tiny little piece of metal that hovers over the chain on the top of the ring. But the one bike that I really wish I had a chain guide on is my Otso fat bike, because I had a few. That bike gets hit pretty hard with the mud and the slush and the crappy weather at least once or twice a year. And the only time I've had a 1x drivetrain fail me is in a really sticky, gross fat bike race with the mud. It wasn't quite cold enough to freeze. The ground started melting, I guess it was, and I could not keep my chain on the front chain ring. I don't know how many times the thing would just slide off, and I don't know how many times I kept wishing I had a chain guide. So I started looking into that, and the Otso Wojtek does not have any way to mount a chain guide built in. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll throw it on my top fuel. And lo and behold, that also does not have a way to connect a chain guide. Now, the modern way is with the little tabs, what do they call them? ICG or something tabs. There's two little things with bolt holes that are around the bottom bracket. And the specs on my particular year bike says that it has such a attachment. And mine does not have one, so I don't know if they changed that or if I got an early model. Who knows? But neither bike has any way whatsoever to mount a chain guide. So in K-Edge, I'm sure you've heard of K-Edge. They make mainly, they're known for their little Garmin mounts. Mainly on road bikes, I think, is where they got their big start. Machined aluminum stuff, basically. And what actually caught my eye is they have one now that mounts to water bottle bolts on your down tube. And while not the most elegant solution, it would work, from the looks of it, quite well on the fat bike. I could put this connected to my water bottle bolts, and I would have me a full-on chain guide. The only issue is there's no way, it looks like, to mount a water bottle on those mounts at the same time, which is okay because I rarely use two water bottles on that bike. Most of the time I don't even use one when it's super cold in the winter. So I'm going to check into that. I don't know if anybody's ever tried to do such a thing, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. What else? Other little news. Stan has new valves and a new injector for the sealant. Now the injector, I don't know, most people buy those cheap injectors, which really truly are not bike specific. They're clearly some type of medical or industrial device with a sticker on it, because they're all basically the same. I've been using Park Tools kind of heavy duty mega injector. It's about twice the diameter, way more heavy duty than your typical flimsy plastic type of thing, and that has worked quite well. But the new Stan's injector looks quite interesting. If I read it right, it looks like you can pour the sealant in somehow after. In other words, you don't suck it out of the bottle, which they claim affects how much of the particles, the little floating particles in there, by sucking it up to the tube, that you don't actually get as many. So I'm going to look into that, because someday I'm going to talk, we're going to have Brian and I, who I'll discuss in a little bit, had a quick discussion, and tubeless tires and all the crap that goes along with it is one of those subjects that I fume over at times and really consider just going back to tubes. But I have not done that yet. So I got all kinds of stuff we need to chat about that. So I'm going to look into these the valves. I don't really care. I've been using 3 or 4 different kinds of valves. They all, as long as I can fit the tube of the injector down in through the valve. A few of them don't allow that. As long as I can do that, they're all good to me. Wolftooth also has their own valves, which kind of, after they came out with them, I thought, I would have thought that would be something they'd have tackled quite a while ago. And theirs, as usual with Wolftooth, looked to be extremely well thought out, and you get all kinds of the rubber seal thingies that go inside up against the rim, and I don't know, they just look very well made. $40 a pair, $35 a pair, whatever it is. I mean, that's a lot, but they are important. So what else? Chris King hubs. Remember Chris King hubs? I don't know. A lot of you, if any of you are younger, you probably could care less about Chris King and don't think twice about him. But back in the day when I got going, if you had a Chris King headset first, you had the coolest, most expensive headset. That I've got one now. It's 33 years, still works perfectly fine. Never touched it. So it's their hubs that kind of made them get to the next level. If you wanted the coolest wheels in the 90s and you had the bucks, you probably wanted Chris King hubs on there. They were just considered the state of the art. They looked cool. They were made in America and all that stuff. But in the last 10, 20 years, I don't know anybody personally that actually cares about Chris King hubs or wants them. I mean, a lot of people are doing the i9 stuff, the Onyx hubs and DT, regular hubs. So Chris King, to me, now maybe they're still big on the road. I don't know. But they did announce that they've got a Generation 4, their 4th gen design, and there's a million improvements. And when I looked at the price, now I think it was pushing $1,000 for a set of hubs. Maybe I was looking at something a little cockeye there, but they were $800 to $1,000 for a set. So, eek, that's a lot of money. And a few times I've seen people mentioned in the past, in the last 5-10 years on the forums, that they've all had issues with various components of their mountain bike hubs. So who knows? But just something to keep in mind if you're trying to build some ultimate wheels. Maybe it's time, to give Chris King a thought or two. Let's talk about something else from the old days. Dean cycles. Anybody remember Dean? They were mainly titanium. They were kind of known for. This is back when hardtails were the norm. So there was a million of these little brands who sold really cool tie, aluminum, and steel hardtails. And Dean was cool. I believe they were out of Colorado. And, custom, they didn't really have a team. You didn't see Team Dean, but in the non-team circles, they were pretty desirable. They actually had some pretty cool soft tails. They had full suspension. They've had, road bikes. They've been around for now a very long time. But they have kind of announced their new hardtail, and they're calling it classic, the classic look. Basically just a 29er steel hardtail. But it's got the same distinctive decals, and it just made me think, does anybody actually buy hardtails, mountain bike or cross country or light trail? Are there enough people out there who still can spend $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000 on a hardtail of any kind, whether it be Dean or carbon or anything? It just seems like that would be a hard sell nowadays, enough to warrant pushing it out there. I don't know. I could be wrong. What do I know? What else? Wheels manufacturing. That's another one I found interesting. I've got a bunch of tools. I have a bottom bracket from Wheels manufacturing. They've been known mainly for kind of machined aluminum tools. I have a great bearing press thing that I bought from them. Very well made. I mean, as well made as you could possibly expect for bike tools. But they've now announced cranks and pedals. Cranks especially, to me, with chain rings, no doubt. That just seems like kind of an odd market to get into unless you're going to do something unique, like offer ridiculous range of sizes, which seems to be all the rage. Apparently everybody wants to pedal 110 millimeter long crank arms for some reason. I don't get the crank arm length phenomena that's going on right now, but that doesn't mean there isn't a legitimate reason, I guess, to experiment with that. But it just seems odd that, in this day and age, that aluminum machined crank arms are kind of worth pursuing. But if anything, Wheels is known for quality, so he's still got White Brothers and a lot of these companies still making that type of thing. I don't know. Be curious to see how they don't look particularly wonderful. They got kind of a big ugly logo on them that I saw somebody call out. But still, it could be something that kind of maybe this whole machined part thing is coming full circle. And we'll start seeing even more of that. And lastly, and most importantly, is the talk of the town is the Shimano Di2 patent, or patents, I should say. There's been multiples that have been released that, while not XTR specific or mountain bike, I would have to imagine is on the horizon. Some of these features, the ability on these, first of all, 13 speed, which is, to me, whatever. All they're doing is shoving another, sprocket in the back. I don't care about that. But due to the SRAM patent, which, to be clear, is a patent on removable batteries that are interchangeable. So it's not just the fact that they have removable batteries, it's that you can swap them between multiple components. That's the patent. So that's why nobody's really been down that route, I guess you could say. But they seem to have a great workaround, which, frankly, I can't believe hasn't already been brought to market by somebody. They've got batteries right in the components. So your rear derailleur will have its very own battery built in, just like an iPhone or something like that. You won't be able to pop it out. So therefore, they can tuck it in places and hide it, if you will. And then they don't have to worry about the patent. Now, the other interesting thing is a patent of Shimano that shows two different batteries. Let's say I like to call it as a half battery and a double capacity battery. So two different batteries, but one, the small battery, can in fact be put into a mount for a large battery. So let's say your shifter has a small size 1 battery and your rear derailleur has the bigger size. And if your derailleur battery goes out, you can take the little half battery and put it back there to kind of get you through the ride. Stuff like that. There's some creative, in my opinion, uses of this battery tech. The other patent, if I read it correctly, would give you internal batteries everywhere, including wireless brakes. That's right. Wireless brakes. They're talking about electronic brakes, electronic seat posts, and electronic suspension adjustment. All battery powered, all wireless. All using one of two different batteries that are not interchangeable in the traditional sense. You can't put the large battery in where the small one goes, but you can put the small where that seems like a technicality, if you ask me. But the other thing that I thought was interesting is that they have a non-rechargeable, they have rechargeable batteries built in, but you would buy this little extra battery that you can snap on to charge the internal battery. But it's not meant to be left on while you're riding. So you could top off your batteries, your internal batteries, with an external. Does it seem clunky? Yes. But this is what apparently they have to do to get around the patent. I was thinking about the SRAM patent. It's been, how many years has Axis been out now? 5, 6, 7 years. And most patents are, I believe, 20 years. So we still got a ways to go before SRAM owns the separate battery patent. So we're going to have to start seeing some of these weird alternatives. They've already tried the wire to a separate battery, but you would think Shimano would have been the first. They had Di2 for mountain bikes and road bikes, I believe, before SRAM ever did. They had electronic shifting before SRAM. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, so lots of interesting little tech like that coming out that I found interesting. Other than that, we're going to roll on to something else. Let's go.
Hot and not so hot.
All right, here's something I haven't done in a while. Hot or not? I'm going with a not this time, and it's going to be in regards to reviews on other platforms of clothing for mountain biking, jackets and bib shorts and jerseys. I, for the life of me, do not get this at all. First of all, they show somebody not even close to my size wearing a piece of clothes that there's no way in the world I would ever be able to find locally and try on. I just don't get why they do this so much, other than these companies are sending these things out for free to these, outlets and saying, here, test our clothing, I guess. And so they go ahead and do it just to make content. In fact, when I got this channel going here, I've been trying to do this for years, 3-4 years solid. So I believe it was last year, maybe the year before. I actually got an email from a company rep for Gore bike clothing, and they asked if I wanted to try some new shorts that Gore was coming out with, the new mountain bike shorts, bibs and non-bibs. And I'm like, yeah, because I do want to start doing reviews here in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, I said, please send them. I would love to try them out. When I got them, I'm looking at them right now, actually. They are the type of shorts you would wear under mountain bike clothing. In other words, these are not the bib shorts that I wear, which are more like, not more like, they are road type, lycra shorts. But they go under, you'd wear a pair of baggy shorts over them. So the chamois in them is quite a bit less firm and thick, and the overall build is really not something you would wear by itself. So that kind of took me by surprise. I was kind of actually hoping for their traditional bibs and shorts, but that just goes to show you they're trying to push these marketing deals out there, I guess. But I don't know how many times I've tried to read one and go, yeah, it fits great, or it doesn't fit great. I mean, that's one of those categories I don't understand why they bother testing, because if you can't try it on, if you're just guessing at your size, that's the main, I guess, issue, is the sizing. I have Castelli brand jerseys. I weigh about 100 on my fat mode. I'm like 170. In my race mode, busting my butt all summer, I'm like 160. I'm 5'9". I'm not huge. I'm not super skinny, but I have to wear an extra large jacket from Castelli, XXL. Okay, that's insane. I typically wear a large of everything else, so I can buy no clothing online whatsoever without just a complete crapshoot, and most likely I got to send it back and get something different. So I wish they would just kind of stop doing the reviews of things like jackets and clothes. I don't know that anybody actually follows that. All right, that's it. I'm not going to complain too much more. Oh, what the heck. While I have you here, my other knot. I'm going knot, double knot. Specialized. If you've seen this year's racing uniforms, it's quite horrible in my opinion. Lots of pink, lots of, magenta and cyan blue. In fact, it looks almost, to me visually from a distance, like Cannondale last year. So to see Cannondale, they've kind of abandoned that style a little bit, and now Specialized comes out with these giant, bright, nasty looking colors. I don't like them. I mean, they have pink forks on their bikes, for crying out loud. Nothing wrong with pink, to each their own, but I don't know. I much preferred their more serious kind of black and white type thing. So that's it for my knots. 2 thumbs down to Specialized team colors, and no more reviews of clothes, except for the ones that I'm going to do, of course. Okay, let's do some quick racing stuff. There's too much to do all at once, so I'm just going to do some highlights. And then a couple other interesting tidbits I think you'll like. Here we go.
Racing news and views.
Racing. Okay, we got a big break between the World Cups here that in, I believe, 2 weeks? They'll be resuming, a little less than 2 weeks. But in the meantime, Pan American Mountain Bike Race Continental Championships, I believe they call it. North America, Canada, Mexico, U.S., some South American countries, I believe, are in there. And they get together every year. Usually, most of the time, it's in South America. So it's a kind of a big deal to the South American racers, more so than the North American, although there have been some big North American winners in the past. But this year it's in Utah, Soldier Hollow, which is a pretty cool looking, I've never been there, but the photos and video I've seen looks like a very gnarly race course. And of course, as you would hope, the Americans kicked some butt. The pro elite races, Riley Amos on the short track, which took place on Friday, actually beat old Christopher Blevins and Gunnar Holmgren from Canada. Those are really, those are the big names from North America. And Riley Amos beat Blevins. Now, the time was the same, so it must have been a mad sprint. They have, and Gunnar Holmgren was a second after that. So obviously it was a tight race, but that's pretty darn cool. So you got the U.S. Now Haley Batten, Kate Courtney, same deal for the women on the short track. Finished with the same time essentially. So there was a 17-second gap back to the third and beyond results. So those two. So Kate Courtney, she's hanging with Haley Batten, who clearly is at the absolute top of, in my opinion, of her game right now after what she did in Brazil. So Kate Courtney, I'm kind of rooting for her to maybe have a breakout year again, if you will. And what the other one I really wanted to look at, where is it? Why is this so hard to find? I can't find it. Who won the men's race? Hang on a second. Sorry about that. Cross country Olympic, once again, Haley Batten and Kate Courtney, 1 and 2. Now, Kate Courtney was almost 3 minutes behind Haley Batten, which is quite a big gap, I must admit. Third place, Sandra Walter, who's, very well known in the mountain bike circuit from Canada. It was a full 5 minutes back. So Haley Batten kind of destroyed everybody on that one. So I think, and of course the men, Blevins won that one. And Riley had to do under 23, so he wasn't competing in the, but Blevins won the PanAm Champs. So all in all, even with the amateur ones, I believe Americans won just about every category. So I don't know. This should lead to some interesting results coming up for the next World Cups. Because now that these are done, I believe everybody's heading over to Europe to get ready. I think we're going to have some continued success throughout this year now that the party has gotten started. What else? French Nationals, I always like to watch, like to see who's in that. And Pauline Ferrand-Prévot did not race for some reason in that. And she rode in kind of a local race in Switzerland, the big series that they have over there. I'm not sure why that would be. She did race the European Championships, and she did win the short track, but then crashed, not really bad crash, and ended up abandoning the regular cross-country race. So Loana, I believe,